Well, I'm standing here with a new project. Well, not new, old in every way possible. Old as in I've had it a while, and old as in it's definitely not a new bike. But I'm here with a new project, and it's about time that we started thinking about what we want to do, what direction we're going to go in. And since I don't really know, I think we need to start taking bits off and doing some mock-ups. So in a moment, we're going to get around to that. Right, well, main problem being this back wheel. I think it would be a reasonable guess to start there. Now, you may remember from last week that I said I wanted to keep the cast wheels, but I wanted an 18-inch back wheel. Very difficult to get hold of a 440 cast 18-inch in the UK, but I think I worked something out, and I think I have. This is a GPZ 305 rear wheel. Manufactured at the same time as this motorcycle in the same factory. Now, before I bought this back wheel, I did some cross-referencing on part numbers, and I realised that the brake drum was the same size as was the spindle and the bearings. So, I think we need to give it a little test fit. I have noticed that this hub is slightly narrower, but I believe it's narrower on the brake side, not the sprocket side, which means in theory with a little rejig of our brake system and a few wheel spaces we should be able to get it bang on. If it's on the sprocket side, that might be slightly more difficult, but I think for now what I need to do is just chuck in this back wheel and just so that I can see it sitting on an 18-inch rear wheel. The other thing is this tyre. This is not the tyre that's going to be going on here, but I just wanted one for a mock-up purpose. So I slapped the motocross tyre off the Triumph on there, and that should give us something to roll it around on and just get an idea of the profile that back wheel will have. Well, the GPZ 305 back wheel went in surprisingly well. In fact, it couldn't have gone much better, unless it was an exact fit. It's not, but I've had a measure up and the hub is 5mm narrower, but it's only narrower on the braking side, so we're in luck. Hopefully that should be a straightforward job and we should be able to just make up a spacer that fits and is 5mm larger. But I'm not going to do that right now because I still haven't got the lathe working and I want a clearer vision of where this bike is going to take me. So I think what the best thing to do is start taking off a couple of bits. I think I'm going to take off the tank and try out another tank that I collected over the summer. Right, so the old tank is now off, which is great. And I've gone to test fit the new tank and I have encountered problem numero uno, which I should have foresaw. The tank mounts that I've currently got on there are too wide to even slide over the new tank, as are a couple of bolts for the head steady. Now the bolts aren't a massive problem, I can trim them down, it's just excess thread anyway. The tank mounts, however, if I remove them, I can reattach them. It might be a little bit tricky, but I've basically got to be 100% certain I want to fit this tank before I go cutting these off, otherwise I'm going to be creating myself way more work. The issue is I'm 90% sure, so I guess I'm going to go and cut them off. The other thing is I've rediscovered the mess of a wiring loom that is there. As I said in the last video, this was my daily bike, and as I remember it, I broke down, had to get it ready to get to work the next day so that I could earn more money to buy motorcycles, and yeah, I kind of just bodged it back together, so that will need sorting out at some point. But yeah, I think the only thing I can do is cross my fingers that this tank looks really good and chop off those tank mounts. Well, this is my little mock-up I've got going on at the moment. So I've slapped the old seat on, I've borrowed a mudguard which I've duct taped on the back, and I've got that little tank on there. Now the good news is I really like the way the tank looks. It's actually off of a DT250, and I've always really liked Yamaha tanks. I think they've got good shapes. The bad news is it is a very, very, very tight fit. Not necessarily on the frame, that wouldn't be a problem if it was, but the wiring, the igniter box, the coil, all that lot is very, very tight under there, even the throttle cable. So I think we're going to have to be really careful with how we do things there, create as much space as possible, and yeah, route things neatly. Now, what is interesting here, for me at least, is that usually when I start these videos I've got a vision. I know what I'm making before I'm making it. This time I haven't. So you guys are with me on the vision process, trying to work out what it is that we're actually building. I think the best thing to do now is to take off those exhausts, because visually, yes, they're going to change, but also the moment we take them off, the ground clearance is going to increase by probably about 3 or 4 inches. So that will add quite a lot when we look at it. So I'm going to take them off, and then we can have another little think about what we're going to do. Right, so I've removed both the exhausts now, and incidentally, that is why we want more ground clearance. At some point I bashed its head in with a large piece of sandstone. I do remember doing it, but I didn't realise it had done that much damage. It is also rusting through. For some reason the left hand side is rusted through more than the right. I'm not sure why. It could be to do with the side stand being on that side and the water running down onto it. I don't really know. But either way, they're getting replaced, so they can go on the wall somewhere. What I have done is I've got my offcuts of pipe out, and I've just come up with this little idea, which I rather like. Obviously it won't be these bends exactly, but if I can get something a little bit like that, hopefully I can run it behind these plates, and then Ellie won't have to worry about burning her leg, which is really nice, and neither will I, which is also great. Gives me more freedom of movement when I'm greenlanding. The only thing about that is things are a little bit tight under these plates. This bike has a rather large battery that is a bit in the way, but I did want to relocate the battery anyway to make it easier to maintain. So we might be able to get away with it. At this moment in time, I think that's where I'm heading, and I'm pretty pleased with how it's kind of coming together. Well, I think I have some plan of what I want to build, and hopefully you guys can see that too. I know that sometimes when you're putting together an idea, other people can't quite see what you're going for, so hopefully you can, and hopefully that wide angle lens isn't making things look too out of proportion, because it quite often does that. But I think what we've got going is a good start. Now, sometimes what I like to do is start with the most difficult parts, because quite often, if they can't be resolved in a way that you can think up, they might end up governing the rest of the build. And what we have here is a big problem, and that is the tank. It can be done, but it is going to be difficult, more difficult than I thought. So everything is really, really tight in there, but the rear mount of the tank also comes way past the backbone of the frame, and that's going to present us with problems because it sits a little bit higher than the frame rails at the back, and yeah, it's kind of a chain event of a chain reaction of problems. So I think what we'll probably do is next time maybe we can start having a look at mounting that tank. We'll just hit the ground running on that and see what we can do. But I'm pretty excited about this now because I, loved riding this bike, and I'm really excited to get back out there. But I also feel that looking at the way things are at the moment, it's going to be kind of a rebirth that this bike is worthy of. So hopefully you guys can better see what I'm doing, what my plan is, and you're excited to jump on board with it and actually get into the building part. A massive thank you to you guys for all your comments last week. I really appreciate it, and I hope you're looking forward to it. So thank you very much for watching, and if you did like it, make sure you give it a little thumbs up. If you want to see more, make sure you subscribe. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.